Hello, BookTube. I'm John. This is my channel, Must Read More. And before I get started, I wanted to say thank you to everybody who watched my video, my BookTube newbie tag, and all the really nice comments I got. And it was a really good feeling. And I just wanted to thank everybody for that because it just made me feel better about doing this. So, with that out of the way, I'm using a new camera on my phone, and I hope that the video will be better. It will be better, I know, but I'm kind of worried about the sound because this phone doesn't really pick up sound all that well. So if there's a problem with the sound, please let me know, and I can figure something out about that. But, so yesterday, I just kind of needed to get out of the house. I had some family things going on across the country that I couldn't be there for, and I was a little bit, it's all okay now, but it was a little bit stressful at the time, and I just wanted to get out. And when I go out for comfort, I don't go out for food or liquor or anything like that. I go out to be around books and to buy books, and that's what I did yesterday. Sorry, this phone is different, totally different from the laptop. It amazes me that you can spend so much money on a laptop and the camera be so terrible. Whereas I didn't pay a sixth for this phone and the camera is better. Kind of strange. And webcams are apparently really kind of not so good too. But anyway, I thought that I would go into this book haul and share what I found and what I got. And this channel is not going to be about just me going out and buying books. I want to make that clear from the start. I buy a lot of books, and I've bought a lot of books my whole life, and now the only difference is that I have other people to share them with publicly, so I thought that I would just kind of share what I got. So the first one is Bill Bryson's The Laughing Times of the Thunderbolt Kid. I've never read this one, but I have read a whole lot of Bill Bryson, and he's one of the few writers that can really make me laugh. P.G. Woodhouse can make me really laugh out loud, and just kind of, I have a really good time. Usually, he's kind of gotten on my nerves a few times, but I think with Bryson, you kind of have to learn that a lot of times he's joking, and he's not being serious, and some of the irritating things he's saying he would never say to your face. As far as I can tell, he seems like a pretty nice guy. So I've read, I think, 6 books by Bill Bryson. I recently read The Road to Little Dribbling and Neither Here Nor There, almost back to back. And they weren't really his best work. I think his best work was probably Notes from a Small Island and, is it A Short History of Nearly Everything? That was the first book, or A Brief History? I'm not sure. But that was his first book I read, and I really enjoyed that. And it led me down the whole Bill Bryson rabbit hole. And I'll probably read A Walk in the Woods before I get to this one. So that's... this next one is kind of funny because I can tell by the markings on it that it's a book that I looked at for quite some time, several months, at a used bookstore, and it was, I think, $9, and I just wouldn't buy it because I have quite a few books about the English monarchy down to the Norman Conquest and before, but I don't really read them. I'm trying to change that. It's just I have so many books that I have to read first. But anyway, this book I saw on the shelf, and I know it was this book because of the markings on it, because of some of the things on the cover. I had to clean it, but it's The Reluctant King by Sarah Bradford, about George VI. And I read somewhere that this is kind of a dry book, but that's okay. George VI is kind of an interesting character. He never wanted to be king. It was never his plan to be king. He was a World War I veteran. He was present at the Battle of Jutland. He was the father of Queen Elizabeth II, of course. And yeah, so I don't know when I'll get to that, but I really like that cover. I really like that. And now these next two books are both about cruise ships, or ocean liners, luxury liners in the days of old. We have, let's see, Ocean Liners of the 20th Century by Gordon Newell. And this thing's really neat. It's illustrated all the way throughout. But it's all in black and white. That's not a big deal to me. I like black and white pictures. It doesn't bother me at all. I like all pictures. I'm looking forward to that. I have quite a few books about ocean liners. I kind of harbor this fantasy, I guess, of writing either a horror novel or a mystery story, or maybe both, that take place on luxury liners. And I always plan to do it, and I get ideas about it in my head, and I think, well, I should do that. But when I think of the specifically the horror movies that have been made about cruise ships, ocean liners, I don't want it to be like that. I've been trying to find a way. Anyway, that's just this thing that's been going through my head for several years that'll probably never come to fruition. But so there's one, and then this is the second one. This is The Golden Age of Ocean Liners by Lee Server. And this is a lot of these aren't pictures. They're not photos. There are some photos, but a lot of it, and maybe I need to switch sides. A lot of it is kind of these vintage travel posters. Let me see if I can find one that's. There are some that go all the way across the whole 2 pages. They're really interesting. No. You never can find something when you want to show it. Let's see. Well, there's the Titanic going down, for instance. And I really like to have these just for pictures and to read about what was available on the luxury liners of, 70 years ago plus. They're all gone now, pretty much. There are a couple, but it's, thanks to the airplane, it's not like it used to be. So I think that's a neat cover. And there on the back, there's, I guess is that the Titanic? It's a little hard to tell. But, yep. So then I went to another store. I have to go quite a distance, 14 or 15 miles, to go to these bookstores and thrift stores. And it was a good day. It was a nice blue sky day. And then I went all the way across town, and I picked up a bunch of these paperbacks. I don't know if they'll be any good, but let's see, Icefire by Robert C. Wilson. It's a skeleton hand, and let's see, a psychopathic killer maddened with bloodlust, kept under 24-hour guard in a special prison for the criminally insane on an isolated Great Lakes island. Apparently he breaks loose, and maybe this doctor was doing some kind of genetic experiments and things go awry, and it's kind of hard to tell, but it's pretty thick. This is a solid book, and hopefully that'll be good. You never can tell with these books. Sometimes it'll have a beautiful cover and a terribly written story, a bad story, and sometimes it'll be really good. And I'm hoping, as I do with every book I buy, I'm hoping it'll be really good. So then, this one's kind of funny to me. This is Sherlock Holmes and the Sacred Sword. And I don't know if you can tell, but that's clearly Nigel Bruce from the Basil Rathbone 40s Sherlock Holmes movies. That's not Basil Rathbone. Kind of looks like a bloated Basil Rathbone. which is kind of odd why they would have Nigel Bruce but not Basil Rathbone. I guess it's kind of a, maybe there was an issue getting the rights to his image or something. But this is about Muhammad's sword. Somebody finds Muhammad's sword, the Prophet Muhammad's sword, and I guess steals it, and Sherlock Holmes has to save the day. So I've never read anything by Frank Thomas. I don't think. I might have. I'm not so good with names right off the top of my head. But yeah, so it was $1. I think it's kind of neat. And some of these Sherlock Holmes pastiche novels are really good, and some of them are terrible. It's just the way it is. The next one I thought might make an alright Garbogist read. This is Ghost Boy by Gene Simon. I don't know if you can tell, but it's a shiny cover. It's kind of that like foil. And this is about a little girl who makes friends with a boy, only he's a ghost. And there's a murderer in town, and I guess he's going to help her solve the mystery. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not expecting a great deal of quality out of this, but it might be good. You never know. This is a zebra book, and some of the zebra books are really good, and some of them are really bad. Some of them make you wonder, like, where was the editor? You know, like, how did this slide through? But this one might be good. I reserve judgment till I read it. So the next one is The Haunted Lady by Mary Roberts Rhinehart. I've yet to read a Mary Roberts Rhinehart book, but I have a couple on the shelves. I just haven't got to them yet. This is a mystery, and I really like that cover. I don't know if you can tell, it's like a body under a sheet, and there's a fireplace and stairs, and it's kind of neat. So it was also $1. None of these, I don't buy expensive books. I never buy new books, almost never. I couldn't tell you the last time I bought a new book. I buy pretty much all used books because they're the ones that I like and they're the ones that interest me. The next one is nothing really to look at, but it's The Silent Service Virginia Class by H.J. Riker. And I've read 2 of these now, and they were both really good. They had some kind of stereotypical Navy characters, which is pretty standard fare in nautical fiction, I guess. And there's the back. That's the Virginia class. But he really writes, I believe it's a he. He really writes, he is a he, excuse me. He really writes these modern submarines, these modern submarine novels really well, I think, because there has not been an attack by a submarine since the Falklands War. So really everything other than covert activities, what would happen in a modern conflict between submarines and enemy naval forces is really kind of speculative. We don't really know what would happen. We know kind of because of war games and that sort of thing, but we really don't know what would happen in a modern war, a contemporary war. So I really like these. I read a lot of novels about submarines and about the sea in general, or I have been for the last year. When I was growing up, one of my favorite books was called, it was a memoir, Warfish by George Grider. And he was one of the executive officers on the Wahoo. And was it the Flasher or the Tang? I'm not sure. I read it a lot. And when I was young, I kind of thought about going into the Navy and into the submarine service until I learned there weren't any diesel boats and it wasn't like that. And also that I'm very mortal and I don't really want to be stuck in a tin can and get, have explosives dropped on me and all that. That sounds awful. And but anyway, the next one is A Demon Haunted Land by Monica Black. And I think I saw this for the first time on Steve Donahue. I think he might have got it at the Brattle, or he might have got it in a mail haul. I really don't remember. It's been a while. It sounded really interesting to me. It's about post-World War II Germans. Apparently there was a resurgence in supernaturalism and witchcraft, and I really don't know, but it sounded really interesting, and it was on clearance. It's in great shape, so I picked it up, and yeah, that looks really good. Then this is funny because I waited for this one for months and months to go down on clearance, and it finally did. This is The Great War, 1914 to 1918 by Cyril Falls. I'm getting better at this, I think. It's in this nice jacket, and it's Cyril Falls was a World War I veteran, and I'm really interested in World War I. I have been for a long time, probably for 20 years or so. I've read quite a bit about it, and I bet this is written well. Some of these older books that people don't really read anymore they have a quality of prose that doesn't always exist in the newer books, that isn't always present in the newer books. So I'm looking forward to that. I can't promise that I'll read any of these soon or anything like that, because I'm a very kind of scattered reader. One thing will interest me and then another thing will interest me. So this one I thought was kind of the find of the day. I really like this one. I went to a third store. Now, this is the last store I plan to go to, and it's the only thing I found there that I wanted. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's King Arthur and His Knights by Sir James Knowles. I can't see the gold, but this book is kind of neat. I paid $1 for it, $1.69, and it is 101 years old. You can see it's in great shape, except it's missing I believe there was a dust jacket, but it's not. I don't have it. That's the only color picture. I imagine that's Arthur and the sword, Excalibur, right? I don't really know the Arthur legend particularly well, which is one reason I got this book. But it's got, just on every other page almost, there is some kind of illustration, kind of like the illuminated manuscripts of old, and I really like that. It's almost every other page, and you can feel all of this was stamped. It wasn't rolled on it. This is you can feel the stamps. So it's pretty neat. I thought that was a really good find, and I plan to go home after that. But on the way home, I started feeling I was driving, and I live in central Kentucky, and I was driving home on these back roads, and they're very dangerous. They're very narrow roads. They don't have a shoulder. They're very hilly up and down. You got to kind of go like this to see and make sure there's not a mail truck or something ahead of you, and people drive 20 miles over the speed limit, and there'll be a stone fence right next to your car. Right next to your car, and then big trees and giant trucks. And I just started feeling bad. I started feeling kind of bad all over, and I started getting a headache. And I realized that I was dehydrated. I didn't follow Randy Ray's advice. Randy Ray, the literate Texan. I didn't follow his advice. I got dehydrated, and I had to stop. The closest place I could go was a grocery store, and there's a Goodwill right next to the grocery store, so I went in there. And I didn't really plan to get any more books. I got a drink, and I was waiting to feel better. And I didn't expect to find any books, but I found 3, and it's Panzer Commander by Hans von Luck. I don't think I've ever read a book by a Panzer Commander. So I collect World War II war paperbacks. I really like the Bantam ones with the drawn illustrations, the paintings on the cover, and I read them, and they're pretty good. A lot of them are pretty good. Some of them are not so good, and they're kind of dry, or they're kind of speculative in a way I don't like. It's kind of hard to explain, but anyway, that might be good. I haven't had good luck with these in this World War II library before. This one doesn't look like it, but a lot of these have been dry. I haven't read very many of them for that reason, because just reading excerpts of them, they seem kind of dry. And second to last is Donovan, America's Master Spy, about, excuse me, I'm sorry. Wow, Bill Donovan, who was the head of OSS during World War II, and I think later on, didn't he become the first CIA head? I really don't remember. But this, I couldn't pass this up. It's really nice. It's in a cover and everything, and it was, like I said, at Goodwill, the books here are $1.60. Yeah, $1.60, which they, for the longest time, for 4 years, they were $1. They recently went up. And yeah, this one doesn't, it has pictures and everything. It doesn't seem too dry. It seems, apparently who wrote this? Richard Dunlop. Apparently Richard Dunlop was part of the OSS, or he was involved somehow in whatever Donovan was getting up to. And the last one that I want to show is The Life of Ian Fleming by John Pearson. And I feel like Ian Fleming is probably a pretty interesting person to read about. Check that out. There he is, with his bow tie and everything. I feel like he's probably more interesting to read about than to read his books. I know that's probably sounds... The only Fleming book I ever read was Casino Royale, and it has kind of a... James Bond was not a pleasant person in fiction. And I'm okay with that. I'm an adult. I can, I know what's right and wrong, and I can discern that. I don't need somebody holding my hand telling me what's right and wrong when I'm reading. But it wasn't my cup of tea. I don't know if I'll ever read another Bond book, but Fleming seems like I kind of wish this was a book about his cousin, Christopher Lee. But Christopher Lee was a very interesting guy. I believe they were cousins, right? He was Ian Fleming's cousin, or was he wasn't Tolkien's cousin, he was Ian Fleming's cousin, right? So that's a back brace. Keep my back straight. But, so, yeah, that little thing here. But, yeah, so I just thought that was kind of neat, and it was, like I said, it was $1.60, and then I went home, and that's my second book haul for the channel. And if you guys have read any of these, I'd love to hear about it, so let me know. See you next time. Thank you.